Hello guys, this is Mr. Wankley here. I'm just here to wish you a happy Wednesday. This is for my general classes, blocks 1 and 3. We will continue to dive into our studies on genetics and why I'm so cool. Alright, so on Monday we did the worksheet and applied what we knew about Punnett squares, dihybrid crosses, monohybrid crosses, figure out the ratios, all that good stuff. All right. Now that was good. We did that. It's good we put into practice, but we have got to move on. So here we go. I'm going to walk through this video. If at any time you need to pause it to write stuff down, etc., that's fine. Pause it, resume it, and go from there. First thing we're going to dive into is intermediate inheritance. All right. To give you a little preview, everything we've talked about so far with genetics has been very cut and dry. All right. Dominant, recessive, black, white, whatever it may be. That, however, the beauty of science is not always the case. We're going to talk about today some exceptions. Don't think of these as hard and fast rules. We've already covered those. These are exceptions to these rules. So the first one being intermediate inheritance. All right. This is where traits in our genes are not dominant for either allele. It's where traits or genes do not have a dominant allele. There is no such thing in these certain traits, all right, as dominant or recessive. So this example here, we've got black chickens and we've got white chickens. In a heterozygous individual, right here, this guy, this is where intermediate inheritance come into play. Black is not dominant in this case. White is not dominant in this case. We have blue chickens. I think they look gray. I don't know how you really get black and white and get blue, but we've got these gray looking chickens because nothing is dominant, all right? Right here, this is the key that you need to look at. Neither allele is dominant. Thankfully, Mendel studied peas, and these did have these cut and dry rules of dominant and recessive, right? And he was able to make these discoveries. But this is not always the case. I can't emphasize this enough, is don't get it confused. This is not always the case. But there are genes, there are exceptions, all right? This only happens in heterozygotes, all right? Heterozygotes, the key I want you to say, if I were here to ask you, heterozygotes, the key word is that they have different alleles, right? Here's an allele, and here's the other allele, big A, little a. This only occurs in the heterozygous individuals, all right? This is called intermediate inheritance. Again, only occurs in heterozygous individuals. I'm going to move on to heterozygotes. Heterozygotes are just allele uneven. That's a joke. Get it? See? They're goats. That's not really how you spell heterozygotes. Get it? Get it? You in the back? You? Okay, good. Now everyone gets it. Good. Wait, one more person's going to laugh. There it is. All right, moving on. So, this is what this looks like. Again, we have a dominant, excuse me, see I already messed up. We have a black chicken that's homozygous for black. We have a white chicken, homozygous for white. These two breed, they create a heterozygous offspring, BW. We can see that right here. Here's the B, here's the W. We have a blue looking chicken. These though can then produce black or white or blue because we know that Mendel's discovered about his particulate hypothesis, these alleles don't just disappear or mix together, right, but they're each separate distinct factors. I'm moving on to the next thing. Please pause this if you need to. So, contrary to intermediate inheritance where nothing is dominant, in codominance, just like the name says, co being with or together, both alleles are dominant. All right? The most common example here that we can think of is our blood type. Now, obviously we can see truly each blood cell. Just to give you a little bit more understanding, the A or B are just symbols that stand for different carbohydrates that are on the surface of our blood cells. Think back to when we studied about cells. Remember, there's surface proteins, there's transmembrane proteins, there's carbohydrates all over that complex, right? Well, I can't even remember the name of it. The membrane, phosphobilipid layer. Oh, there it is. All right. Now, these carbohydrates are not recessive. They are both dominant. All right. They're both dominant traits. So, because of that, in a heterozygous individual, here it is right here, a heterozygous genotype, AB, their phenotype is AB, blood type, right? Both, in a heterozygous individual, both traits are expressed, all right? If there's no A or B passed on, then we have blood type O. If there's one A here or two A's here, then the person's blood type A. If there's one B or two B's, then the person can be blood type B. Or if this individual gets one A from mom or dad and a B from the other parent, mom or dad, that person, that offspring, is blood type AB because of codominance. Now, here is another example. We've all seen cows, I hope, right? Live in the beautiful state of Kansas. Here is a cow, okay, in case you didn't know what it looks like. This is it right here. This is a cow, all right? In all seriousness, this is a roan cow. This presents an example of codominance. We can see white and red fur on this cow. In the Punnett square to the left, this is representing how this happens. Red is dominant and white fur is dominant. So here's one parent, here's another parent. The Punnett square, you guys all know how to do this. We're confident in this. The R parent passes, the homozygous R parent passes on R allele. The homozygous W parent passes on a W allele, and their offspring would be roan colored. So, if we were to walk up to this cow and pluck off two hairs, we could see that this hair is white, another hair would be red, each separate and distinct in itself, but together, in the whole organism, this whole cow, some hairs are expressing the red color, some are expressing the roan color because they are codominant. Now, no hair is tie-dye colored or twisted or anything fancy like that. If we were to pluck off hair, we would see some white hairs and we would see some red hairs. Really wonderfully displayed right here in the middle of the cow. You can see right in here, there's a wonderful mix of red and white fur. Again, I am moving on. Please pause this if you need to. Now, what about skin color? Everyone asks, how do we get these different skin colors? Obviously, there's not just two different skin colors, okay? There are all these beautiful shades of skin color, from very white to very dark. Now, again, this is not the actual example, but this is just an example that I found. I wanted to show you guys of a Punnett square talking about skin color, okay? And this is what we call polygenic inheritance. Poly means many, so many genes are playing a role, a factor in the inheritance of this information, all right? So in this example, we have 3 genes, 6 alleles playing a role with the inheritance of skin color. Depending upon what your dad passes on, sperm up top, what your mom passes on, eggs here on the side, the combination of the two will determine your skin color. So, yes, there is dominant and recessive roles going on here. However, when you have so many alleles at play, there's no real dominant or recessive going on, right? And that allows all these shades of skin color to be expressed. When 2 or more genes affect a single character, in this example 3, I would venture to say it's more than 3 truly in our genes, but in this example with skin color, it is called polygenic inheritance. Poly meaning many. So think of some examples, some very common examples. First one off the top of my head as well for polygenic inheritance would be height, obviously. Again, there's not 2 or 3 heights. We have every single height. If we measured everyone down to the exact millimeter, there'd be every single height in the world possible. Hair color, another example. What do you think about eye color? Pause this Write down what you think about eye color. Is eye color intermediate inheritance, codominance, or polygenic inheritance? The answer after these messages. But seriously, I'll tell you when I get back. Pause this, please. Write down your thoughts. What do you think and why? Write it down. Do it now. I see you. Write it down. I'm moving on. Pause this if you need to. Environmental effects, okay? Now this is a very interesting topic, a very probably new area, something that will be developed as all of us get older, as sciences develop. We can't spend a ton of time on it, but please do know that our environment, our surroundings, where we live, what we do to our body affects our genes. The product of a genotype is usually not a single rigid defined phenotype, but a range of possibilities that are influenced by our environment. That includes sun, that includes where we live, that includes time, that includes temperatures, that includes what we put on our body. A huge, huge thing coming up. When I get back, we're going to read a study that was just published titled Salivary Carbohydrate Breakdown Gene is Linked to Obesity. So they're continuing to find different genes, things that are affecting us, each as individuals, and how that relates to our diets, our nutrition, our exercise, and our genes. All right? All these things play a role in our genetic. Again, pause it if you need to. Moving on here with section 4. Okay? Chromosome theory of inheritance. Genes are located on chromosomes, and the behavior of chromosomes during meiosis and fertilization account for the inheritance patterns. Now, we've talked about this. This seems like a lot. This is really boiling down to two things combined: the principle of segregation, the law of independent assortment, and all of this playing out during meiosis. Genes are located on chromosomes. I hope we know that by now. The behavior of these chromosomes, the randomness of them, okay, lining up, crossing over, etc., during meiosis, all right, during meiosis, and fertilization, when sperm and egg meet, a random sperm that is created by your father, the egg that is released once by your mother. This accounts for inheritance patterns. This makes you and I the unique and beautiful individuals that we all are. Pause this if you need to. I'm moving on. Gene locus. All right, so now diving deeper into meiosis, we know this. Genes are located on chromosomes. These locations are called gene locus or gene loci for plural. All right, they are located on homologous chromosomes. So, for example, homologous chromosomes, again, we have chromosome 8 from mom and we got a chromosome 8 from dad. Notice that the homologous chromosomes may bear either the same alleles or different alleles. Here are different alleles. Makes this a heterozygous individual. We can see this individual has a big R here and a small recessive R here, right? If it was big R, then it would be a homozygous individual. So this plant, this is showing the genetics of this plant. Here's the plant, and here are the possible gametes this plant could make, potentially, to be passed on. Again, pause this if you need to. I am moving on. Oh, I'm moving backwards. Now I'm moving on. JK. Here we go. Gene linkage. All right. Again, another fancy term, but all it's talking about is the tendency of alleles to be inherited together or not be inherited together. Okay. This is all just due to the location of these genes on the chromosome. Physically, where they're located on the chromosome depends on if genes will be inherited together or not. The closer they are, the higher chance they have of being linked together. The further away they are, the less of a chance they have. So, scenario 1 we have here on the left, genes Q and M, these alleles are very, very close. Meiosis occurs, crossing over occurs, they are still together. They have a very high tendency to be linked together because they are so close together, their gene locus is so close. Here, scenario 2, genes B and genes L, almost on opposite ends of the chromosomes. Again, crossing over occurs. Because they're so far away, they get swapped during meiosis. That is the end of this presentation. Have a great day.